I'm joined by Faith Kasina. She's a member of Africans Rising and an organizer with Kayole Community Justice Center. And we also have Rogers Okaka. He's also a PanAfricanist scholar and an organizer with Ukombozi Library. And of course, a member of Africans Rising. Thank you both for making time.
Thank you.
Just to start with you, Faith, tell us a bit more about Africans Rising.
So Africans Rising is a Pan-African movement that seeks to unify Africans both here at home in our continent, but also in the diaspora, and majorly focuses on building the unity, the dignity, the justice and peace of Africans. Yes.
What about you at Ukombozi? What do you guys do?
Ukombozi Library actually acts as a space where people can actually be able to come, organize and do research in terms of addressing some of the social ills that actually plague the African continent.
Faith, coming to you, how then do you define Pan-Africanism? I know, of course, it dates back into history from that time of Kwame Nkrumah, but how would you define it in simple terms?
I think Pan-Africanism, to me, in simple terms, is the unity of African people here at home and wherever they are in diaspora. Yes.
What about you? Would you define it better?
Yeah, for me, I'd begin maybe by giving perspective to the history of Pan-Africanism.
Right.
And this is a movement that started in the 1900s by one lawyer and activist called Henry Sylvester Williams. So the first meeting took place in London with other, of course, black leaders.
Right.
So after that, these meetings culminated to the first Pan-African conference, actually, which took place in 1919 in France. It was organized, of course, with the likes of the W. Du Bois. And since then, we've been having this urgent push because the major clarion call has been around total emancipation of Africa socially, economically, and politically. Yeah.
Faith, are we really standing up to that as a continent? What he's just talked about and how he's defined it.
Are we standing up to that? Let's start here at home with our president. Is he even looking towards the liberation of our people? Not really. You know.
Why do you say so?
IMF controlling whatever bills we pass, you know, the Finance Act and everything. Privatization bill, you know. Are we even looking towards, are we even moving towards our own freedom as Kenyans? No, not yet. And then let's go to our neighbors, Uganda, everywhere. So are we there? No.
What's hindering then? What's hindering us from that? Because I mean, democracy usually allows that space, that freedom. So what's hindering that from not happening?
But democracy for who? Does democracy work even here at home? No, we have negotiated democracy.
Right.
Look at the past elections. Did we choose the leaders that we wanted to choose, most of us? No, we were negotiated. Parties sell certificates at whoever comes with the money, right? So it's negotiated democracy. It's bought democracy. It's not a democracy. It's not democracy. That is not democracy. So even when you talk about we have democracy, that it will lead to liberation of the our liberation, it's not really the case. The only conversation you can have is, are we working towards economical liberation and political liberation? We are not. Socially, let's even not go there, right? We have inequality, we have classes. Look at the slums, they're growing every day in our ghettos. So that is not, we are not there. We are not actually working towards that. We have a few people who are organizing towards that, right? But the country, where the country is headed right now, with the high cost of living, with the with the laws that are being passed every now and then, if you look at the laws that are being passed, others we don't even know about, you'll not say that we are headed there. You'll actually say we are going back to Moi's time.
All right, that's interesting opinion. Rogers, do you agree with her that we have negotiated democracy? And of course here in Kenya, but also in the continent.
Yeah, and I'll specifically lay blame to some of the leaders that we have, because when you look at the entire African context, we have impoverishment of the African people through legislation. And this has been taking place in a way that it makes it even very much more difficult even for us to interact as one-on-one with each other in the same piece of land. And we look much more further in terms of the borders that actually separate us. It takes way much longer for me to visit a friend or a family member who's in Africa, maybe Gambia, Congo, either because there are ongoing fights and wars, or the visa is just too expensive for me to get. But when you travel to other parts of the world, it becomes much more easy, and you see there is that invisible hand that's actually trying to stifle even for us to be able to be united and engage. Yeah.
You've talked about the leaders and how the situation is with the leaders, especially in the continent, and you've talked about the Kenyan context. But what role do you think then the citizens play? Do they have a role to play in this, and the whole conversation on Pan-Africanism?
Yes, because I think we realize that the same oppression that is here at home is the same oppression being experienced in Uganda, the same oppression being experienced everywhere else. So do we have a role to play? Yes, because you're the one who are feeling the pinch, first of all. Our leaders do not care. You see, our president is just flying around. He does not care. Our MPs do not care. When they pass the finance bill, they do not even question the people. So you realize even the people you elect do not care about you. So it's upon you as the people to actually realize that, first of all, these elections are not working for you. So you need an alternative, right? You need to create an alternative, and that alternatives come from the economical, the political, and the social. How do we then liberate ourselves in those spheres of life?
Because that's what I want to understand from you, because I think it's an interesting perspective, right? If it's about liberating from terms of economic, how would that be in a practical sense, from your opinion?
Total change of the system.
Right.
The capitalist system is not working for the people. So what is the other alternative system that we can put in place so that it works for the people, that ensures equality and equity for the people? Because the problem you're facing right now is that we have 1% rich people, and it continues getting down with the high cost of living, with 99% very poor people, you know. So how do we make sure then that we change this system that is not working for the people? When you talk about how privatization has actually caused, privatization is affecting the poor people, right? So how do we do? Because again, capitalism looks at making profit. As long as you're making profit, you're okay, right? Okay. So what is the other alternative that we need to seek for the sake of the people, that is a pro-people system, because capitalist is anti-people system.
I want to bring in a different perspectives. Maybe we can start with you and talk about a country like South Africa. The inequality there, the income inequality is very high, and there's xenophobia attacks where they attack even migrants from different countries, and they're all Africans. What other alternative then can you bring in that case?
That's why we have a Pan-Africanist thought as a way of mobilizing and organizing these people. Because the moment you start looking at each other without the lenses of where you're coming from, like you're from Nigeria, and you see your brother or sister as just an African like you, then issues like xenophobia actually disappear. And that's why we are looking for very many, kind of a revolutionary alternative that actually lead the masses of people to actually wake up and go beyond the borders, actually quash them if possible, put systems in place that are pro-people, that actually makes sure that the kind of, I'd say, status or kind of facilities that are for the masses is not actually taken and stifled and privatized for individuals who want to actually grow their pockets. For example, the issues around taking assets, state assets, and actually making them private. People most of the time look at these things as just structural kind of buildings, but they don't even kind of look on the lands that this particular institution sit on. These are things that actually are owned by the masses, but owned by the people, are owned by the citizenry. So when you have the Pan-African thought, you start looking at things at a different way. You don't actually look at your neighbor as the enemy, but you now start concentrating in a way that you are united, and you actually look on pulling resources together to actually uplift each other up. Yeah.
Another example, if I'm to come to you now, Faith, and we talked about
just
we have 4 minutes roughly. That's why I want us to just quickly touch on something.
Yes.
Because I know we were talking about Sudan.
Yes.
And tomorrow there's that event on the Solidarity for Sudan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us what your thoughts are on the situation in Sudan, because as you can see, there's the rival leaders that are sort of causing the conflict that's happening in that country.
Yeah.
Again, going back to that conversation on Pan-Africanism.
Yeah.
So tell us your thoughts on that.
First of all, the war happening in Sudan has been left for Sudan only. Even when it comes to the media, it's not being covered a lot. And it's affecting majorly the people, women and children. They have been displaced. We have 9,000 people who have been killed so far, 5.6 million people who are displaced, you know, and 25 million people who are in need of humanitarian aid.
Right.
So when you're looking at how then does Pan-Africanism come into this situation? First of all, is supporting the people in Sudan. Secondly, is just telling the world what is happening in Sudan, because most people do not know what is happening in Sudan, because there's been a blackout on what is happening in Sudan right now, and just calling on people to call out the war, first of all, to stand with Sudan people and condemn the war that is happening, but also at the same time make sure that the people understand the situation and are aware what is really happening, even when the media is not covering it.
What about you, Rogers? Do you share the same thoughts on Sudan?
Yeah, for sure. The two warring factions are not only interested in the people, but their major focus is on the total control on the minerals and on the vast swaths of land that lie in Sudan. So for us, I think it's just to lend support to some of the grassroots organization movements that are trying to pull resources together so that they can be able to assist most of the people affected by the war. Yeah.
All right, as we wrap up, I think we have roughly a minute.
Okay.
What's the way forward?
I think for now, even as we look at solidarity, there are activities happening tomorrow. They are collecting, Africans Rising is helping to collect donations that will go towards the people affected by the war. And tomorrow we are doing action in solidarity with Sudan. And one of them will be happening in Madare Social Justice Center, which is situated along Juja Road here in Nairobi. But we have other collecting points in Kayole, by Kayole Community Justice Center. We have another one in town by Ukombozi Library. And we have another one in Uganda by Freedom Center, and another one in Sudan, South Sudan by Pan-African Peacemakers Association Alliance, and then we have another one in Mombasa by Uzalendo Initiative.
Right.
So I think we can just do the little we can. First of all, voicing it out in solidarity with the people. You can hold a placard and write a solidarity message with Sudan people. You can do a video calling out on the war. You can donate. You can go to the website on Africans Rising and donate the little that you have, anything that you have. Secondly, you can also go there and see where you will give your donations. If you have any kind of donation, mattresses, foods, and that is uncooked foods, clothes, toiletries, diapers, sanitary towels for women, anything that you can donate, you're welcome to donate in any of the collection points.
All right, thank you very much for that conversation. At least I think people have picked up a few things on what to do, especially for tomorrow, the Solidarity Day in Sudan. Thank you for your time. That is Faith Kasina. She is a Pan-Africanist, a member of Africans Rising, and an organizer with Kayole Community Justice, and she's also together with Rogers Okaka. He is a scholar, a Pan-Africanist, and organizer with the Ukombozi Library, and member of Africans Rising. Thank you both.